Dear Twin Flame souls out there, welcome to the Twin Flame Awakening podcast, and today is an episode number 46. In today's episode, I have again a guest, and those who heard my episodes before, and I'm very happy to welcome back no other than the author of the Magical Breadcrumbs book, D Ann Marie Blatt. And today we are going to dive into the topic that I think many of you are maybe suffering, maybe are questioning, and to find the ways, what is the right thing to do? Is it correct? Is it not correct? Is it cheating? Is it not cheating? What it is all about when we come across with our twin flame and we happen to be married on this time. And as we know, many of us, because there's a 3D life and then there is this 5D life. And our soul tends to live in a 5D, which means it's energy. But when we are young, we get married, we can find our soulmate or a husband and our spouse, and everything seems to be fine until we come across with twin flames and we can no longer understand what is happening. Why am I feeling this way? So since I had no intimacy with my twin flame, as I am a married woman as well, and I felt on that time that I cannot do it, I can't cross over that line, and but then thankfully D Ann Marie Blatt is here to today bring us the light. What happens if we choose to do differently? What happens overall in this dynamic? What happens in the future? So let's just dive into and say hello to our guest and welcome back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me back. And this is such an interesting topic that I'm asked about often. So I'm excited to share it with your audience.
So where do you want to get started? Maybe we get started from the beginning. As you were married and you still are. When you came across with your twin flame and you felt this sexual energy, you felt everything, what was going on in your mind?
Well, I think we have to look back to most of us meet our twin flames when we're still in our third dimension reality, right? And so we've made those choices in our life. We got married, we had children, we've got a career, all of those things that were led by our egos, including the fact that we have a base knowledge of intimacy based upon everything that we've been told our entire lives. And so we think we have a picture of what that looks like or what we're longing for in those connections. And I know in talking to many twin flames that going through relationships throughout your life, you often feel as if something is missing, like you're not quite hitting that mark of what you thought intimacy would be. But the truth about the word intimacy is you have to look at it's not just sex. Yes, there is sex, and yes, I can give you a background on that. But you also have to look at intimacy is about the trust and the respect and the desire and the connection, the overall connection. But it's also feeling safe and secure and all of those things that you feel in intimacy. So before I was sexually engaged with my twin flame, I was intimate with him. We developed a relationship over a course of nearly 2 years in which we developed a very intimate, what I would call close, personal, intimate relationship. We knew a lot about each other's lives, about our backgrounds, things that we liked, didn't like. And, I know it's no surprise to all the twin flames out there, but we had a lot of things in common, right? And so I was faced with an individual who actually shared the same things that I did, whereas my husband is completely opposite of me. I married a man who we don't have a lot in common. Surprisingly enough, they say opposites attract. And it has worked for a very long time. I mean, we've been together 31 years, not married 31 years, but we've been together 31 years. So obviously something works there. But the connection and the intimacy level that you have with your twin does not even begin to compare with that of a spouse. And the easiest way that I can explain that is that your spouse is your 3D partner. And that's why I can very easily compartmentalize now between it was an ego choice and it's an ego interpretation that you should be faithful in marriage. That's what people and the beliefs that we've been taught have told us. But in a twin flame relationship, you are no longer thinking with the rational, logical mind. You are now in the 5D and or it's 4D or 5D. You're leveling up, no matter how you look at it. But you start to see and feel and experience that relationship differently. And it's literally another part of you that is having that encounter. So the level of intimacy and the expectations of that all fall by the wayside. It's not about what you've been taught anymore. It's about learning to follow your heart and the resonance that are within you. So for me, having built that relationship over, like I said, the course of 2 years or whatever, I never thought that I would go there. My 3D self was something in me sexually was activated, like I was attracted to him. And as I said in our last episode, I thought it was once. I thought it was just going to get it out of my system, that I was just going to move on with my life, move 1,200 miles away, and just, throw that skeleton in the closet, close the door, and move on. I was, sadly mistaken. That was absolutely not what happened. I mean, that was 4 years ago. So definitely not what happened. So where do you want me to go with that? Do you want me to go back to our first encounter of intimacy, or what do you?
Both ways, in effect, of how did that change you? Because you actually explained it so well. There is this 3D aspect, and then there is this 5D. 4D is in between, where we are just like taking the next step over there, and there's this weird way of reality and non-reality. How did this whole, when you finally gave into the universe, or to your urge of like, I want to be with this person, how did that change you? What changes were there that you were like, okay, that was something I've never experienced before?
Actually, I'll give you a little bit of details about that first time that we were together. And I actually experienced the switch turning on from one dimension to another. So we decided we'd meet up. We were having lunch. We weren't really having lunch, but we'll just say we were having lunch. And we were both extremely nervous. You have to remember that we were and are both married. And we had been with our partners for a long time. So being with even somebody new was quite out of our comfort zone, if you know what I mean. So we, in those moments, those first moments, here we are in a room, each undressing ourselves. There's nothing like crazy fantasy erotic going on here, right? Like we're each undressing ourselves, like completely in the ego, right? And both nervous. And I'm actually shaking at this point and thinking to myself, oh my God, like, is he gonna like what he sees? Like when I take off my clothes, like I'm like, yeah, yikes. I'm like freaking out at this point, but I'm like, okay, there's no going back. So I'm completely in my 3D mind, and things are going through my mind like, I shouldn't be doing this. Am I going to meet his expectations? Am I ruining this amazing friendship that we've developed? Like, what is going to happen here? So that was all 3D reality. And about, I don't know, I was down to my undergarments, ready to undress. And he said, stop. And I said, what? And I thought, oh God, he's changed his mind, right? Everything I was thinking is right. Oh, he's changed his mind. And he said to me, I want to see how beautiful you are. And we locked eyes, as we had done, probably a million times before that. And the switch, I call it the twin trance, like that switch from 3D up went on, and everything completely melted away. There were no more insecurities. There were no more worries or what happens if, or any of that. It all dissolved immediately. And so from that moment, it was about our higher selves and about our souls making that connection during the actual act. Now, after, again, I can feel that exact moment that switch goes off, right? So we're laying there and he says to me, come here. And he puts his arm up and he wants me to lay my head on his chest, right? And I lay my head on his chest. And again, that switch immediately to the 5D. So we had never hardly even touched at this point. Like we were completely platonic, friends, that kind of thing. So we had never been in this type of a situation before. So it put me back into that moment of realizing that there was a difference between the way that I was feeling. I wasn't awakening yet. Well, I was awakening, but I didn't know it, right? And so I just thought, boy, that's bizarre. I've never felt like that before. And I didn't expect him to act like that because beliefs are like, it was just sex. Like he should have got up and put on his clothes and left, right? But that's not what happened. So from that first encounter, it really set up for me that this is different, and leave your expectations at the door. And remember, in that moment when he said stop to me, that is the most seen I have ever been in my entire life. If it doesn't get more vulnerable and more intimate than that, I don't know what it is. Because he was literally not looking at my physical. I mean, obviously he's a man and he was, but he was seeing through my skin. He was actually making soul contact with me at that point. And so it was really then that I determined that, wow, this is completely different. And I started to see it as this is my marriage and my relationship. And these are the expectations. And this is what has been happening over here. But this is at this point, again, I didn't know he was my twin flame at this point, but this is my twin flame relationship. And this is the expectation over here now. And this is more in alignment with what I've always wanted, what I've always felt inside me that I wanted, but I didn't think it was possible. Like I thought it was that Hollywood love story. Like that never happens. And it's surely not happening to me, right? But it did. And so I think from that day, my definition of intimacy has changed. And it did absolutely change my relationship with my husband. It is very difficult to go back to a sexual relationship with a 3D partner when you have experienced that level of satisfaction. And I'm not just talking physical satisfaction. I'm talking your soul is completely satisfied. I mean, remember, our twin flames are our soul. You're literally looking at yourself. So anything that you ever wanted, and even all the magnetism that you can't even control, are coming back together. So you don't have to worry about what you're doing. You don't have to worry about the physical act. You don't have to worry about what you look like. You don't have to worry about any of that. It is simply about the experience of being together. Whereas being in a 3D relationship, you still have those things because your mind is still actively engaged. So it is separate parts of your being. I'm not saying I'm not holding myself accountable. I am a person living in the third dimension. I am married. I am in a relationship with him, but he had full control over that to continue the relationship or dissolve it. And we determined at that point that we understood that we would never be what we were before, because you can't go back once you make that decision and you've had that soul altering experience. Your life will never be the same. Your life will never be the same after meeting your twin flame. And I can say that even tenfold, your life will never, never, never be the same if you choose to, have sex. So.
I have many questions, but one of the questions I would like to ask is like, once you've experienced this, and how did that change your vision of female sexuality, overall, what the woman, like how, I have a couple, because I'm so into that, and so that's why I would like to know what happened inside of you. How was, let's say, the way you were thinking or feeling about sex before that, and then how did you feel afterwards? Did the energy change you? Did you realize that is that is something, my body, my soul, my creativity, like everything I need as a woman, because we have a lot of, how do I say, the nowadays the sexuality out there is a very, I mean, it's very surface level. Either it's porn, naked women on the all over the internet, and so on and so on. So it's very like surface level. And I'm my kind now I've figured that kind of one of my part of my mission of this is also because talking of myself, even though I had no sex with my twin flame or anything like that, his energy was able to open my sacral chakra in order to feel and to become, actually to realize that power. Because before that for me was like, I mean, yes or no, I didn't really care. It was not something I am so like keen about it, that this is something has to be in my life. Now I would say it's very different. How was it for you?
Okay, so I've always been very open sexually. I've always enjoyed sex. I've always made it part of my regular life, like even talking about it or joking about it, like it's part of who I am. But I wasn't aware that there was anything more than that surface level, right? And so my husband, who knows no difference, is also in that mindset. My twin was also in that mindset. He's now come around and realizing, wait a minute, there is no comparison. But um, it's really just the difference. I mean, that's the easiest way really to explain it, that it's two completely different departments. So we go back to the beliefs, like what is real, what is reality in our society. And like you said, the pornographic material, the ease of it, especially I'm here in Las Vegas, like the ease of the sex, availability, that kind of stuff. That is surface level fulfillment, a quick get, like a fix or a release, especially for the masculine. So I was very much in touch with that, was why I was doing it back then. In the years before, it was so surface level and so textbook by what society had programmed us to believe that sex was. I'm not saying I wasn't fulfilled. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that I didn't know there was this other part of me. I knew that I was married to a man that could never connect with me on a level that I desired. It's really important to recognize that whether you're man or woman, masculine energy, feminine energy, we all hold traumas within our sacral chakra. We all do. And through the process, I realized all of that I was holding in there. All of those choices that I made. I had sex too young. I was having sex because I wanted to keep a relationship. I thought that I had to use my physical to get that desire, to get that acceptance, to get that approval, right? Once you engage in that twin flame sex and you realize that it's not just about the physical, and it starts to ignite that kundalini energy, right? It's starting to ignite that sacral. You literally change your whole perception. I became, I would say, more of a sensual individual. I want to surrender. It's no longer about just the act of doing that. It's that my twin, I want him to rise for me so that I can surrender for him. And you can take that figuratively or literally, but that's really the intimate dance of the twin flame, and that union internally of those masculine and feminine energies coming together is in a beautiful dance, regardless of what it looks like to the physical. It's a beautiful dance between those energies when you're in those moments of intimacy.
Yeah, yeah, it's totally, it's beautiful the way you explain. It's very beautiful because it's again brings us closer to realize in a way that it's somehow necessary for us to also to feel and experience. Because I know many of the souls I've spoken to, it's a struggle for them. It's very hard for them to, are they making a right decision? Are they making a wrong decision? How how to find a way to it, and what you would say to someone, for example, today who is struggling. Let's say they've been in a marriage that is not actually going so well, and it's even, and they come across with their twin flame, and now they have this two battles with themselves to stay in this unhappy marriage, to be over there, or to go and cross the line and be with a twin flame.
Bring up that question today because that hits home with me just today. And I have angel bumps all over me as soon as you started saying that, the thoughts that were rushing through my mind. So it is, first off, this is all about your mind. And this is about you leaving behind who you were and what you knew. Hands down, I would do it again. I wouldn't change it. At the same time, I know that we would still have a relationship now, even if I did. Even if I didn't go there, my twin flame and I would still be together, right? We still would be there. But I know that having an ongoing relationship with him does, it speeds up the process, because every time I'm with him, I can physically feel the energetic shifts and I can feel the healing taking place within me. The next day, I often have reflections on the actual changes, the emotional purging of things that are in there. So I know that there's a lot of healing that goes on in those moments. But the power of your mind, of all of our minds, is incredibly, incredibly difficult to overcome. Especially when you get into families and expectations, and I have kids, I have children, like this is going to impact everything if you do that. The best advice that I can tell you is your soul, when it tells you something, you have to listen. If you don't listen, as you know, you'll be up every night at 2:00 being told to do the podcast until you do it. So if you don't do it, your guides and your soul is going to continue to tell you, you have to go to your twin flame. You have to go to your twin flame. You have to do this. So I don't really see it as a choice. I see it as surrender to the divine, surrender to the connection, and surrender to all of the limiting beliefs that you've held. That you have to be the person who says, I get it. I signed up for this life. And my husband and I have had this conversation. I signed up for this life. And my 3D self, I still want this. I mean, we live in the house of our dreams. We have our wonderful children. We have a great relationship. It's not that we don't have all of those things. But my twin offers me something that my husband and my marriage and my ego life choices never can. So for me, at this moment in time, it's a matter of balancing both of those and understanding that the majority of it is within me, that I have that union and that power and that healing that's taking place within me. But that doesn't mean that there aren't times when I need to be with him, with my twin. Those are the times that that my soul is crying out, right? It's telling you, excuse me, it's telling you, you have healing to do. Or I have something to show you. I have a lesson to teach you. This is where you're supposed to be. This is the path you're supposed to be on. And as I mentioned in the last podcast that we did, I was told it was time to go back to my twin. And I fought it for days and days and days. I fought it. And then my husband finally confronted me and said, what is wrong with you? Like, what is happening? And I told him, I said, I have to go back. And I didn't know what I was going back for. I just knew in my core being that it was time for me to go back. So yes, it is going to change your ego existence. You are never again going to think about sex the same. You are never going to experience personal, intimate relationships that you have currently. They're never going to be the same. And once you can put down the beliefs that that's bad, right? Because we need to understand that it's not a bad thing. It's just change. And change, I mean, come on, the seasons changed. The leaves fall off the trees, the caterpillars turn into butterflies. Like all of these beautiful things happen, but our egos are like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. So they freak out, anytime there's going to be, some kind of a change like that. But The greatest guide that you have is within you. When you can actually put aside your ego and say, I don't care what this means for my existence. Does this mean that my marriage is over? Does this mean that I'm moving to a new place? Does this mean that I'm going to be with my twin flame? What does this mean? When you can stop obsessing about those and let your 4D, 5D higher self, however you want to call it, when you can start letting that self make the decisions for you, then it's time for you to follow that guidance. Your guidance will never lead you wrong. But sometimes we think that that's what we're supposed to be doing because we're thinking, and we got to get outside of this mind because that is not where this relationship exists, right? It's in our soul, it's in our hearts. We know inside us what to do.
Yeah, the mind, the power of the mind in that terms, that it doesn't leave us, like it tries to control everything and keeps us into this old self because it's used to with that and it's obvious. But so now, let's say you were together. I understood that it wasn't only one time when you had sex together and all of that. But what, like you mentioned, that your husband finally like told you that he knows or there is something is going on. How did that work out? What was the outcome of all of that?
Messy. So when I, if you listen to episode 42, you heard that I contacted a psychic after being guided. I literally received the message that I needed to contact a psychic, and I did. And she told me in the course of that conversation that he was my twin flame, and that was my green light to my ego. So that was my ego saying, wait a minute, there's something bigger here. There's purpose. Okay, I have permission to do that, is how I took that. And so from that point, then I was even more so in on that relationship. But it was very messy. It was extremely emotional. It was the end of my ego existence. I mean, I was experiencing an ego death. I went into a spiral of a dark night of the soul. For days, I had no idea what was happening, what time it was. I was numbly just going through life. A lot of times sleeping, my body was heavy. Like I didn't know what I was doing. But I knew the whole time that I was having an affair with my twin flame, I knew what I was risking. And every time I was with him, I was choosing me. I was choosing that 5D, higher D self of me that I was in complete alignment with. And once I had realized that there was source, that there was a universe, that there was God, because I had already started to figure all that out, even though I wouldn't say I was awakening at that point. I had already figured it out. I started to pray. I started to say, you know what, please let my husband find it within his heart to understand my indiscretions. Because the psychic told me that he was going to find out, but yet I still continued, right? Because it was my 5D self leading me to that. So my husband, went into a complete, I would say like an ego death, like realizing that the dream and the life that we had built was coming to an end. Now, my husband is the type of man that is very much ego based and was absolutely no. There is no tolerance for that type of behavior. I thought once he found out it would be over, and I knew what I was risking when I did it, and I knew it was inevitable, right? But I never thought about it because I was leading with my higher self. So we had that aspect going on. So here I am in the dark night of the soul. My husband is just beyond himself, but we can't talk about anything at this point because neither of us, our minds are just completely gone. And my twin flame ran. So that's when the runner started. So he ran to protect, his ego life and materialistic, and he snapped right out of that trance of being his higher self, and left me. And so I underwent my dark night of the soul, which lasted for days. I don't even know. And then when I woke up from that, literally with this beam of sunshine across my face, I received a very clear, clairaudient message, and it said, everything you need is inside you. And it was within those first few minutes that I started to feel whole. I started to feel hope, and a newness, a freshness. And don't get me wrong, I was missing my twin. I had spent so much time with him. Of course, I was missing him. And the uncertainty of knowing what was coming, right? I didn't know what my husband was going to choose. How was this going to play out? I had no idea. But I knew in my heart that everything, I was guided, that everything that was going to happen to me from that moment on, I was loved and I was protected and I was guided, and I was going to follow it. Especially clearly receiving that message, it just reminded me. It was like that moment when my twins saw me and said, "Stop." It was that completely being seen, and I was seen and recognized by the universe that we're here, we've got your back, and it's okay. And so through that next, I don't even know how long it went on, but through that next period, it was really a learning time. That it was it was a confession, obviously, of, yes, you're right, it has been going on, this is where I am. It's your choice. I always left it up to him, because he was the one that, as far as I'm concerned, that had been hurt. So it was completely his choice. But through that process, those next couple months, there was actually a miraculous change within my husband. He started to do research about twin flames. He started to talk to other people who thought that they had been on the twin flame journey. Not all of them, I believe, were on the twin flame journey. I think some of them were false twin flames because they were giving him this ideas, but he started to go see a psychic. We went to counseling together with a metaphysical therapist. And we really just looked at those things. And his core foundation within his being, he says that he feels that he's here to support me. But he goes back to the day that I met the man, the day that I met my twin flame. I went home and told my husband, there's something about this guy. Like, I just don't understand what that look is and our connection. As soon as we connect eyes, like, I don't get this. I've never experienced anything like that before. And so he knew that it wasn't just a one-time random guy because I just wasn't satisfied or whatever. He knew in his heart what it was. And so it required us to really step back and take a look at our relationship. It would never be the same. Once you make that choice to go outside the marriage, your relationship is never the same. But we knew that so many years together and what we had and what we had worked towards was worth something. And so we decided it's time for a new beginning. We had to release the relationship that we had to make way for what was coming. And it's still difficult. I'm not going to say it's not. It's still, his ego mind tends to try to want to compare himself to my twin. He knows in his heart that he can't. He knows that connection that's there. And I try to be very sensitive to his ego and to his needs, right? But he's absolutely right. The truth is that there's a distinct difference in the relationship. So it's an ongoing. What it looks like long term for us, I don't know. And it gets into that whole soul. I know we're soulmates. I know that we're supposed to be together. I know we have a contract. But where does that contract end? I don't know. So now it comes down to allowing that higher self to guide, and not being the ego just holding on to what we have because this is what I promised, because that's what I want to do. This is an internal struggle that I go through almost every day, that this is the life that I chose. I have a man that loves me. My husband loves me. No doubt. We have a great relationship. But there's never that personal, higher level fulfillment. And there won't ever be. It's just a fact. So it's actually very sad, but at the same time, I signed up for this, right? We knew coming into this that we were twin flames. And in some part of me, my higher self says, this is exactly, what you knew was going to happen. And I feel that love and that acceptance of, we've got you. We've got you. We've got this situation. We're always going to take care of you because that's what the universe does, right? And so no matter what happens, long-term, short-term, day-to-day, minute-to-minute, next year, whatever, I know that whatever decisions we make, that we'll make them as they feel right to us. And we'll just see where it goes. And so that's kind of the attitude that we take. We're moving forward with the 3D dream that we had and all of those plans and aspirations that we had together in our lives before the twin.
Yeah, very, very good. I had this another day. I think it came to me, or I had a discussion. I don't remember. But then there was a question like, oh, well, what happens if, for example, your husband would have found a twin flame? Would you be also so like, oh, it's a spiritual connection and all of that? Would you be the same? And then it took me a moment, and I was thinking, I was like, if you would have asked me this year ago, I would have said no. This kind of thing doesn't exist. This is kind of madness. Go home with your, or go to hell with your spirituality, all of that. Yes, you wanted to cheat, you cheated. That's fine, because I would have seen this on a very surface level. But now it happened to me, and I see this very differently. Do I wish for my husband a twin flame? No, because it's the hell, and I have to I have to then help him even more going through that, because it's not the romantic, in that terms, romantic relationship, because you go through so much pain and so much like this inner battle with yourself. So I actually never wish twin flames to anybody, because I'm like, are you really ready? Are you really ready to take this? Because it's going to mess you up from top to bottom, and you have to know that your life is no longer the same, and all of a sudden you have this man or a woman who were some period of time in your life, and now it's forever part of you. And we are talking about twin flames, like in a way of twin flames, there is the same soul and in different bodies, and you have to accept that information. It's just like nothing makes sense here. And so, and now if we talk about it, well, if, let's say, how would my husband react to this as well? I'm like, I know he doesn't understand, because I wouldn't either if this wouldn't happen to me, because I would see this from the very, just in a level of, like you had a crush on someone. You just were tired of the marriage, things moving on. But again, today I can say it's nothing like that. And in certain level, I can say that I changed a lot for the fact that I became a love. And now I'm able to give a love to my husband, to the others. In a way, I'm better than I ever been before. So I think you have to, exactly like you were saying, you listen to yourself, what your soul needs. And if that's what it needs, then the mind is, yes, we're going to face the consequences, but at the same time, if we think of it, I listened to another podcast another day who was a lawyer attorney, the lawyer attorney in US, and he said pretty simply that every marriage ends. And it's true. It either ends with divorce or the higher power takes a person. It will end. There is no marriage that doesn't end. So if we think of the fact that one day you're going to leave this earth, and there's this one question has been bothering you the whole time, like why I didn't say this, why I didn't do this, because you come to this world alone and you leave this world alone. Even though, yes, we have a 3D labels such as wife, mother, father, husband. We have these labels, teacher, lawyer, whatever. But when we go, these labels disappear the same way. So I think it's a very deeper way of realizing that, because I speak to many of the people who are like, their marriage been over for a very long time, and they know that. But now to make this decision because you have children involved is difficult, because of course, none of us want to do that to our children, and that's not even our purpose. And I've also, one of the things is like, what I think is, when those who haven't come across with the twin flames and happen to listen to this, they think that we twin flames are the ones, let's say, who want to break up the marriages, or who wants to, like destroy other people because, we're going to sleep with the, even though we are married, and so on and so on. And I'm like, twin flames are the number ones who doesn't want to do any of that. That's like our last thing, to hurt somebody. Our main purpose is to like find a peace and love and try to solve this with like this, but it's nothing to do with, oh, I see my twin flame is with somebody else, now I'm going to go in between and destroy that marriage because I don't know which reason. It's the complete opposite. But I know it's hard to explain that when you haven't been on that journey, because this journey is intense, insane, and difficult at the same time, because now no longer there's only 3D world. Now you have to live in this 5D where you're experiencing energies, synchronicities, the God is speaking to you, and you're like, am I going crazy?
Touched on so many things there. So many thoughts are coming to my mind. First off, these people that are out there trying to find their twin flame, right? That have heard the term before and think that it's the greatest love story ever, right? And they're just searching for it. The people that end up, in those false twin flame relationships, or they're in a relationship and they just keep looking for, are you my twin flame? Are you my twin flame? Like, be careful what you wish for. Ever heard that? Like, this is not an easy journey. And anybody listening to this podcast knows that this is difficult. This is heart-wrenching. This is life-changing. There is no going back to once you meet your twin flame. So so that was one thought. And then the second thought was, so there was this time, this period after my dark night of the soul, and after my husband and I started discussing, and he realized that there were things that my twin flame could offer me, sexually and otherwise, that he could offer me, that I needed to be whole. So here I had been in this ego life, then I experienced the twin flame life, and then I tried to go back to the ego life, and I was not fulfilled. I missed him. I missed that connection every day. So maybe I shouldn't say him. I should say I missed that part of myself all the time. And so my husband and I decided to explore the possibility of a polyamorous relationship. And so there was a brief time period when he was okay with me continuing to have a relationship, sexually or otherwise, with my twin flame because it was fulfilling me. I can tell you that in that short period of time that lasted, which was maybe 6 weeks or so, I have never been happier in my entire life. My ego existence was happy because I had my life that I had worked so hard for, right? And my soul was happy because I could see him and do anything with him. And the way that I explained it to my husband was, you can't limit me. You can't say, well, you can't have sex with him, because I don't make that choice. When I'm in that 5D mindset, I'm in flow. I'm vulnerable. I'm there for the experience. And so whatever's going to happen is going to happen. The mind has nothing to do with being in that space. So during that brief period, it was basically like, okay, well, you need time with your twin flame. Okay, go. And I was like, well, that's not fair for me to say that I can be completely fulfilled, but you're not completely fulfilled, right? So it was basically an open marriage. Like, if you want to go out and meet other people and whatever, you're fine. The truth is, I was feeling a little bit worried that this amazing connection was out there and that I was experiencing it, and that I was preventing my husband from experiencing it, because he is so committed to the relationship and won't stray from the relationship. Now, do I think he's going to meet his twin flame? No, I don't. He doesn't feel it in his heart like there's one person out there for him. So I don't think that he will. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other relationships out there that he's supposed to experience his lessons and grow from. So as for that aspect, I'm just going to say that my heart is open, that I understand that there's a higher power leading this, and that if he is supposed to meet someone else or go another direction, that we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. That's just like saying, I don't know that I'm going to be with my twin flame or not going to be with my twin flame in this life. He's chosen to be in the 3D existence, as have I, obviously. And we made those decisions primarily because of children and families, right? And the fact that a lot of men, a lot of the masculine energy believes this is too good to be true. Like, there's actually somebody out there that's like me, that likes the things that I do, that connects with me, that I'm seeing that they feel the same way that we do in that magical, I'm going to call it magical connection. So I don't know where the universe is taking me. I know that it's our job as twin flames to ignite this light, to be a beacon for others. Whether it's alone, I will shine my light. If I unite with my twin, we will shine our lights. If I get the opportunity to do projects with other twin flames like you, we will shine our lights together. I don't know where this is going. We don't get to know those details, right? But again, it comes back to surrender. We have to surrender to the process, surrender our 3D minds, surrender to all of the ego beliefs, and just be in flow. Just go with this and be vulnerable and open, and know that yeah, your heart is probably going to get broken because it's already probably been broken a couple times. But it's worth it. I would not change it for a minute.
I came across with an idea or like a mindset for the fact that you get the power when the moment you are able to let go of any kind of ownership. So any kind of ownership, whether you're married, whether you are in this connection, because the moment you're letting go of that, I don't own anybody in this world, that's where the power comes in, to realize that whatever comes supposed to come, because it's at the end of the day, it's the source or the God or the universe who in a way of owns it, not me, just because I signed the contract. And I think the more we are able to live like this, that we don't own anybody, the easier it becomes for you to also let go, because sooner or later we need to let go certain people in our life. Like the same way when, our parents will leave, everybody is kind of leave, and we need to have this power to let go, because life keeps on moving, the universe keeps on expanding. So it's not that you're going to be there. What you have is, in a way, like I always like, it's the moment of now, and letting go of, like you have said, limiting beliefs, the control, and also that you don't own anybody. It's not. It's good when you own yourself. It's good enough of that, but the rest is up to God, up to universe.
Very powerful words, but so important that we let go, especially like the guilt for me. I cheated on my husband. That, if you don't think that that impacts my sacral, right? My sacral chakra, and that I hold trauma from that, you're crazy, right? I don't take it lightly. Those are things that I made choices of. But when you let go, you accept that you cannot change the past. And so you just have to come to peace. You have to find peace within you, whether it's forgiveness for someone that has wronged you or something that you've done to someone else. You really just have to acknowledge those feelings, feel them, let that energy move through your body, and forgive yourself. With grace, move through the situation.
Yeah, but also another thing is that we women, especially, I don't think that men are that much, but men can also jump in and tell the same story, because as I'm a woman, so I can take from the woman's perspective. We women tend to be very guilty when something is good for us. If something is that made us feel good, we feel, oh no, now I'm feeling good. Now I'm feeling guilty because, let's say, someone else is not happy in that like in that frame, or let's say kids or husband or your mother or your in-laws or whatever, because you chose something that made you happy on that day. And we women tend to be very guilty of that, of feeling immediately, oh, I shouldn't feel so happy because, let's say, my in-laws are super upset that I didn't come for a Sunday lunch because I chose to go to spa. You know what? It's very common, I would say, and mindset or belief that we need to feel guilty when we feel good.
You're absolutely right. And back to those days when I distinctly remember thinking to myself, this is worth it. I'm worth it because of the way that it made me feel just being with him, no matter what we were doing. I'm not necessarily talking about sex, but whatever we were doing was worth it. And so it was me really choosing me. And that's not something that I had ever done in my life. And it's not something that I do a lot of. I definitely do more of it now because I understand that being more conscious of the decisions and the impact that it has on your soul and your purpose and your happiness, right? We all want happiness. If you take care of yourself, you can take care of others even better. And so it's just a matter of understanding that as women, we matter. Our needs matter, and going to the spa instead of going to lunch sometimes is okay. Or having a relationship that's in a different, literally a different dimension, like those types of things are not things that come along all the time. So take advantage of that opportunity when you have it and hold on for dear life.
Actually, I have another question because I think that's something, because you went through it, but we'll also, after that question, we're gonna, because we had some people who asked questions, but I'm gonna ask you, many of us will be thinking that if they're intimate with the other part of their soul, and then this divine masculine decides to run away right after that, because you mentioned a little bit that you had a time period where you were in a separation. I think that's also a big fear of everybody, that I become so vulnerable and then they go. And so what, they never return. Maybe I was just an object, or maybe they didn't feel any of what I felt. What would you say for that?
Back into your 3D mind, and your mind is going to become obsessive, and you're going to think about, what did I do wrong? Why did I scare him off? Where did he go? And that's when you get into that obsessive loop of social media and all that good stuff, when they start blocking you and unfriending you and all that stuff. My advice is, don't ever be on social media with your twin flame, okay? Don't do it, because you have two separate lives. Even though you share one soul, your choices in life are completely different, and it will prevent so many unnecessarily dramatic moments for you.
That's very good. That's. I think it's a very good advice. I think that's something everyone who's listening should, because it will trigger, like you said. And if you happen to be connected on social media and seeing, let's say, stories and everything that your other part is posting, and then you should be like, okay, now my ego kicks in and I become jealous, defensive, protective, so on, so on, so on.
This whole journey is about what's going on inside you. It's leading you to your purpose. It's leading you back to your soul's truth and putting you on your mission, right? So as soon as you put yourself into perspective and know it really doesn't matter what's happening on the other side over there, and you start focusing back on yourself and healing all of those things within you, your twin flame is magnetized back into your life. I mean, just real quick, I'll tell you, I was at a weekend retreat this past weekend doing inner healing, and I must have had 100 texts from my twin flame going absolutely insane. Like, he's feeling all of the healing that I'm doing, and he has no idea. He knew I went for the weekend. He had no idea what I was doing. And I could see that what I was doing in a completely different state was impacting him. And so the first thing I did, of course, when I returned back to the state is, we need to talk. And I told him where I went and what I was doing, and that I was working on our soul. And it really makes, a lot of times the masculine doesn't accept this connection. Like, they think this is, you women are crazy. Like, you just want that fairy tale. You want me to, leave my wife and roll out the red carpet for you, and we're going to live happily ever after. But now that he has gotten into the comfortability of this new stage of our relationship, that we can talk about my healing and our relationship and what it does for him. And we can openly talk about the changes that we have put into one another's lives by being in each other's lives. Now it's it's not a choice to not be in each other's lives. Even if we run again, which by the way, recently I wanted to run again. I decided not to. I consciously made that choice not to, but to look at what was being triggered that was making me want to do that instead of actually doing it and doing that healing. Because it's a process. It's a long process, and there's no timeline of how long this is going to take to get to where you need to be. And especially, I think, for those people that are a little older, like my twin and I've said before, he's 15 years older than I am. We have a lot of traumas. We've gone through a lot of things in this life and previous lives, and things that we need to work on. So we understand that we're special, that we have something that isn't a normal connection. But we also understand that there may be points of separation, and there's going to be disagreements, and there's going to be times when we don't see eye to eye on things when it comes to our 3D perception of things that are going on. But that's just part of the journey. And so when you reflect on the higher purpose, instead of becoming obsessive about a person, when you start looking at it as a soul and as a purpose, for a higher purpose for your own evolution and for the universe and for everybody else, all of mankind, because as we heal everybody else. You really stop that loop of that obsessive, and you really become more focused and understand kind of what you need to do. And so it really, for me anyway, mindset's everything, isn't it? How you think about things. So that would be my advice.
I was just about to say to you before, but I was like, okay, I'll tell you off the camera. But I was like, oh, you look so different today than the last time. And then when you're not like, and then obviously now when we come to this retreat, then it recalled me back to your email, and I was like, yeah, coming to the retreats and going to this is so powerful. So that's why most probably one is coming up during the end of February, beginning of the March, which I'm planning to host for this reason. As much as we can put out the information, as much as we can share, as much as we have this, I do think that you need to also sometimes step aside and just really be in that environment that helps you to ignite all of this soul thing inside of you. Because what happens when we are at home and in an environment, we have the same energy around us, we have same information around us, so it's difficult to just see it from the distance. We need to actually escape for a moment to see that from the distance and realize, oh yes, this is what is happening. So yes, most probably. So I've mentioned that, and I'm trying to put it up on a website for at end of February. It's most probably more for the Europeans who can come over, or from Dubai or something like this, because I'm in the middle over here. But if that goes well, we're gonna enter into the US. So let's just answer the questions. I have actually another question, but let's keep that to the end. What I have based on, people were asking us some questions on Instagram. So let's see, what did they ask? How to move on when your twin flame is married to someone else and I don't feel attracted to anyone else.
We just basically covered this in that last little segment there. Take this as an opportunity to really focus on yourself and healing those aspects of you that you need to look at to grow and learn, and develop yourself, and have confidence and faith that that connection is still there, that you did make an impact in that person's life. They will never forget you. And that at some point it will come full circle, and you will end up in a situation where you are having a conversation or run into them in person, or something is going to happen when it's time for you to return to that situation. So let go, surrender, know that there's a purpose. Your twin flame obviously is in some type of a relationship, whether it's karmic and he has lessons to learn, or perhaps it's a soulmate contract that has to be fulfilled. But know that you have been gifted this beautiful gift of being a twin flame, and just let go. Stop, don't obsess, breathe, and know with full confidence that he is already with you. He's in you. You are in inner union. And I proved it this past weekend. I don't have to talk to him. He knows. And the healing that I was doing was literally healing him. And when you just said a minute ago that I look different today, I think part of that is the healing I was doing over the weekend, but part of that is also in having that conversation with him and him realizing what was going on. A light bulb is going on in him that, wow, this is amazing. We really are experiencing these things separate from one another. So it's real. It's really happening. And just because you can't see it and your ego mind can't put it neatly in a box does not discredit it. It doesn't mean that it's not happening. This is something that you have to let happen, literally in another dimension. Like you have to let this all play out.
Yeah, I think here is the same thing, that we are focusing too much what is in a 3D and we forget to focus on a 5D. So it's more like, okay, 3D, I have this obstacle, this problem, that problem, and then this and this and this, instead of just removing the 3D for a minute, move it for a half an hour and think that these things don't exist there. What would you do differently? How you would feel differently? What would you say to yourself? How you would see this connection? So it's like, the 3D, of course, I'm extremely thankful that I get to be a human today and not only a soul, because I get to experience, I get to touch, I get to see, but it's not only, it doesn't end here. That's not only, 3D is somehow limited, while 5D is.
But one more thing before we move on from that. You have to remember that everything happens for a reason. Okay, so if there is a situation where your twin flame is choosing to stay in that marriage or that relationship, your life doesn't stop. Don't try to put it on hold and think I only want to be with him or her or whatnot. You need to continue to experience the things that are set up for you, that are in alignment. Let other people come into your life. If you feel led to be into a relationship with someone else, to fall in love, to have sex, to be intimate, all of those things, if you're feeling it within your heart, you need to follow it, because we're here to have experiences and to feel things. And sometimes because we have had that amazing connection, we compare everything to it. And if anything is less than that, we shut ourselves down. We're only hurting and denying ourselves. So my advice would be continue to live your life. Go out with your friends, go on a date. I don't know, go on online chats, do whatever makes your heart happy. If it's something that you feel good about, that you're excited about, then you need to do it.
Here that when you don't choose from your ego, but you choose from your heart, then magic starts to happen. But when you do this, let's say you're going on a dating app just because you're trying to forget or trying to move on or trying to do, it will not happen. So it's better don't do it, because the more you're going to trigger yourself. But when you choose from the heart, you can't go wrong. You simply can't go wrong. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is a bit, I haven't touched this topic a lot about it because it's very intense, but we can, I think, answer half of it. But let's go. Is it normal to feel that I don't want to be with my twin because he's on drugs and he's toxic?
Well, two things. First, I would ask, and I know this is going to raise some triggering within, but first thing you need to look at is this really your twin? That's the first thing you want to look at, because perhaps this isn't a real twin. If it is your twin, it's going to take you to your higher self. And if this individual is pulling you down or not making you your higher self, then perhaps this isn't a twin. Now, that's not always the case. So let's just say that could be, but if it is your twin flame, your twin connection is going to heal that. All of a sudden, you both want to become, and I saw this with my twin. You both want to become your higher self. There was some drugs with my twin flame, and those stopped long before the sex. That stopped because he started to make those interconnections and those changes, and he wanted to become his higher self. They start to drop bad habits because they want their higher self, right? Your higher self is never going to tell you to take drugs or do something that's going to hurt yourself, right? That's your ego. That's being trapped within the mind. So once you allow that higher self to take over and to be involved in that connection, it will work. So what can you do? First off, you're never going to put yourself in a situation that it's going to cause you harm. You have to put yourself first. Even though you feel like you're responsible, like you can help this person, that you're borderlining on more of like a codependency type thing in those situations. Yes, you love him. I would recommend going into meditations, doing loving, healing, sending that energy, that loving energy, and specifically manifesting for healing and the stop of those abusive behaviors on his own being and his self. So you're recognizing, I'm over here and I'm this perfect soul, and over here is my perfect soul, but his 3D version of himself, his ego self, has attached to these things. Now chances are he's attached to these things because he wasn't fulfilled in other areas of his life, right? And so he was trying to fill those gaps to make himself either numb out or to feel fulfilled or whatnot. All sorts of reasons why people choose to do those things. But you cannot put yourself in harm's way, and you're not going to bring yourself down, your soul down, right? Souls only are meant to rise. And so sending the love from a distance and not engaging in that harmful, toxic behavior or enabling it sends that healing energy to him. So, and you can go and have Reiki healing, virtually sent, those types of things. So whatever you need to do, you're doing it from a distance and you're letting go and having faith that you're surrendering to the process. And the universe has him, and there's a plan. There's a plan. We just don't know what that plan is. So you just have to let go.
Here as well that one of the things is when it comes to any kind of drugs or alcohol or any of these things, they're numbing us, they're numbing our soul. And I believe also now seeing, like listening to certain kind of music or reading certain kind of books, it makes me to realize, wow, these people must have come across with their other part of their soul, because you can only write and feel this way when you have done it. And so what happens is, because previously we had no information, and when we don't have information and we keep on feeling this intense feeling where you have to be honest with yourself, you have to become very honest in this process. And if you're not ready to become honest with yourself and you try to hold on to the ego, especially men, what you're going to do is you're going to take drugs, because then you can forget about everything and you don't have to go through that. And here again, I'm about to say that the more, I mean, in a way, if these are involved, any kind of it just holds your vibration low, like in a way that, so any kind of toxics is not. So yes, to find out and to discover, and also to, like you said, to send a lot of healing and lots of love, because that can only stop it. And that's, I agree with you really well. Like you said, that your twin stopped taking any of this just for the fact, because of this enormous amount of love energy that can heal, that can bring us back. So the next question is, what happens when you come into a romantic relationship with your twin flame? We are friends now.
I know all about that. Like I said before, 2 years in, almost 2 years before we decided to take that leap over, I would say that don't hold yourself back. Get out of your 3D mind and stop worrying about it. And if your heart is leading you to do that, to take that next step, then by all means, go for it. Go for it. The universe is supporting you. That the universe wants nothing more than for us to unite with our twin flames, whether that be, in physical relationships or not, but the universe wants us to be together. That's its ultimate goal. And so don't stand in the way of what is, the greater divine.
Yeah, I think we have touched a lot of this question actually somehow being answered already all over today's episode. But I just would like to also say that the more we resist what the universe wants us to do, the bigger, in a way, of challenge or the lesson we will get, because the universe is like, okay, I try good way, I try to show you in a good way, and you are still the one that say, okay, let's gonna remove this, let me make you sick, let me make you something, because you are not listening, and I need you to listen. And so I'm just gonna say that if that happens, like we just mentioned, go with the flow, allow this to happen, because there's most probably a reason. If it comes from your heart, and if it's hard for you to know what comes from your heart, really take a time to focus on yourself before you make any decisions. Focus on yourself, spend time with yourself. Also, we have a book coming out, so you can already order it. We're going to get to that point, but that might help you to realize, to come to your soul, what is necessary, because your soul can't be wrong. Your mind can be wrong many times, but not your soul. What happens if a long time I don't feel anything about my twin flame?
Interesting. So my first question would be, no thoughts ever cross your mind? That's my first thought. My second thought is that you have fallen back into the ego trap, that you are living in that 3D belief system and programming, and you have basically started to numb out the signs of the universe and your twin flame. If you start to release those blinders a little bit from your eyes and your ears and stuff, you'll start to recognize those signs, those magical breadcrumbs that are surrounding you and leading you all the time. So that's what I would say. I would say that this is probably a situation where you've fallen back into it. It happened. It's in the past. Your ego took over, probably because you had an extreme heartbreak. Let's face it. I'm sure it wasn't probably a clean and neat breakup. And so you're trying to prevent yourself, your heart, from being hurt again, right? Which is completely natural. We don't want that. That's the worst pain ever. But don't prevent yourself from something. But also, and I actually have a very good twin flame friend who's in the same situation. She is in a relationship, was in a relationship, and they went their separate ways, and now they haven't talked for probably a year. So there are things within each of our paths that we have to do, and it wasn't time for them to come together. And so you need to let that separation happen. Take off the blinders, be aware that you do have a twin flame out there somewhere, and the universe may start telling you, hey, it's time. Oh, look, guess who you just ran into at the restaurant or in the same meetup group or whatever. Watch for those signs, but also to be aware that you're both on your individual journeys as people, and let you learn your lessons. And maybe in the future you'll come together. I know that's your case in the twin flame, right? He has to go on his way and experience the life that you've already had, right?
And it's funny that when you once get this realization, it becomes so much easier. Like when you really start listening to the soul, and like that's why, because for me it was done through channeling, and I do channeling on my own right now as well. Once you get these answers, you become calm. Like it's all of a sudden this mind is no longer there, because you got actually the true answer, but you heard this answer from another human being, and you realized, well, that's exactly. So why am I stressing out so much about things that I cannot control? So it's beautiful. I think everybody has their own way. Like you went to psychic and all of that. So I think when we hear, and that's why I'm offering the channeling, for the fact that especially I knew that it helped me. So for me, it's like, I know I can channel. I know I get the downloads. So if that helps you to calm down and stop obsessing, then we are one step closer already. But I'm also going to say that one of the things is, when we don't feel anything, can be also one of the reason is that you are in this period of shift where you're now actually starting to go into like really close to your soul, but you're feeling like there's this moment of pause where you don't know what is coming, and you kind of like, you're like empty. That's the time where you're going to, this new ego or this new soul self is coming through, and that's that's a time where you kind of don't feel anything and you don't understand anything, and it's like everything is like in a fog, because it just, you like, I like to say it is a visually that you're going through the tunnel and the light is there, but you haven't got to this light yet, so you just don't know what is happening. It's the moment of pause. So that can be also one of the reasons when you haven't feel anything. And then we have a last question. What happens when a twin flame goes into a union? Are those relationships usually successful? I think what she means under here is like if it's like a physically together living in a 3D, because otherwise we are in a union already. But I think what she means is,
Well, I can tell you that I have talked to other twin flames that are in union, physically in 3D, and they are not easy relationships. Remember, these relationships are to propel us to our higher self. So if you're looking for an easy relationship, a comfortable relationship, then that's really your soulmate, or that's another type of relationship. You have to really be committed to your self growth and being the highest version of you that you can be to be in a twin flame relationship. I'm not in union with him. As far as physical, we do not live together. We talk all the time, but we are internally in union. So I know that he has given me the parts that I need to put that puzzle piece together for my masculine and feminine energies to beautifully dance that inner dance. And I anxiously await what the universe has in store for me. You know, is that something that's going to happen in this lifetime? You know, I hear in the twin flame community a lot that, you know, when you unite with your twin flame on, it's your last incarnation or whatever. I don't know that I necessarily believe that, but I do believe we're old souls, that we've done this a lot of times. And I have, you know, done past life regression where we've been in the lives together. So, I don't know. And does it really matter? I guess would be my ultimate answer. Does it really matter? If your heart and soul is leading you to go there and you understand the purpose of the union and that it is the greater divine that's putting you into that position, it's really not your choice. You say yes, surrender to the process and go with it, and understand that everything happens for a reason. The good, the bad, no matter what, it's all for purpose.
yeah, this is exactly, I think that those who are listening to the podcast, for them it's like to hear, oh, it's not a romantic relationship. I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to have all of this. It's very difficult because when you are in this first stage, it's super hard. If, like, I am somehow happy that when I came across with this information, that it didn't actually, I didn't consume an information that would have led me to this illusion that this is all about, you know, we're going to live to 3D together, we're going to have this and that and this and so on. I'm actually glad that I came across with an opposite information that made me to realize immediately, work on yourself. It starts from you, release from you, do from you, because only you are your higher self. It's nothing to do with this external circumstances out there. So, and I know it's very difficult to hear that when you are in this pain and you're longing for this connection and you would like to share everything. But like I mentioned before, if you come to the point where you're willing to let go of the outcome, let go of the situations, let go of everything, that's where you start experiencing it. That's where every day you wake up and you're like, okay, what comes today? I'm going to experiencing it. It's not that I'm going to plan all of that and live according to the plan, because we can make tons of plans. We are still not more powerful than a God or the universe. We are just, in a way, like, I mean, if universe wants us something to do, they will make sure we will do it. Like, no matter how long it will take for us. So yeah, I think we should, I know these answers are exactly that no one wants to hear when we are in that pain, because we would like to hear, no, it's going to be the most beautiful, that love is so intense, that's everything. And I somehow say, but who says you cannot dream or think about like this? Go ahead, just feel it, think about it, imagine, build yourself this moment. It's, you don't harm anybody with that. but also experience life. Don't forget that. So,
One more thing. Sorry, it just came to me, but I also think that in the bubble phase, when we're all in that crazy love and we think that we're getting exactly what has been sold to us, over the years of programming, we're getting that. That's the carrot that's leading the horse, right? Like that is the heaven on earth that you will experience if you can survive the soul evolution and grow and change together. So, yes, I do believe that there would be heaven on earth at the end of that. But it's a long road to get there, and there's no telling how long it'll take to get.
yeah, we had yesterday on a group call or 2 days ago, and she told me that apparently her aunt is on that journey, and aunt and uncle both, and so they are in their 60s already or something like this. And she said, "I'm trying to gather as much as information as possible because there's," and I was like, "Do that," because that again gives us a different perspective and realization that things don't happen today or tomorrow. They take a little bit of a time, and there's a divine timing as well involved with your energies and so much. So it's not like this and now the magic will start to happen. But talking about magic, we have a new book out on a pre-sale right now. Everybody can order it already, and it's called Magical Breadcrumbs. And I had a question when we were before talking about it. What point in this journey made you to realize that you need to write this book?
Divine guidance. I had a download. I received information that I was going to write a book and that book was going to help unite women and it was going to help shed limiting beliefs and help them shine their divine light. Again, followed guidance, right? That's exactly what I was given. That was in January of 2022, I think. And immediately received that guidance during a nap, actually, on the couch. I received that guidance and I sat up and I grabbed my phone to check social media. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. And right there on the podcast or on my social media was the publisher that I was supposed to use. And so I contacted the publisher, found out the information, signed up. I was like, okay, I'm on board. But that's a whole story for another day. But I knew there is purpose in our unions, and if we unite with our twin flames, there is a purpose for greater humanity, right? So it's not only about us shedding our limiting beliefs and shining our lights, but when we unite, we also have a mission that we agreed upon before we got here. And so nobody knows, will you reach that point or not? Because that's where the free will and the 3D choices comes in to do that. But when you receive that guidance very clearly for your mission, my purpose was very clearly given to me. Now it's time for me to do that. So the book is written through the lens so that no matter how you look at it, you can see the things that are limiting you that you need to shed in order to reach your divine perfection or remember your divine perfection, because we are all perfectly imperfect.
Said again, you're very good in a way of putting the words. And here is just something I'd like to, in a way of saying that when I first came across with this and then I started my podcast, I thought I would just, share the information that the guides are asking me. Well, in a way, I was seeing it from the very different perspective. Now I see that, okay, it's becoming completely different than I imagined, or I had some kind of a thought process, because now I see that, no, I am the connection in between of others who's been on the journey, like whether it's, your book or someone else's podcast, or who else is another coach or something like this who I align with. And I want to that we connect and we help all of us together. So has become from just this idea that I just put it out there, maybe somebody finds it useful, for the fact that, oh no, I need to connect everybody together, that we evolve and our energy is going to lift up. So here I'm just about to say that again, that for me it's never like for me, the main, what I'm seeing it today, again, in a year it can change, is that whoever is feeling that they need to, become a healers, or they need to also do something related to twin flames in terms of being a coach or being a podcaster or whatever, that for me it's like, yes, I want to help you to get there, to do that, to become this, because I think the more love we bring into this world through our experience, I just can't wait if it's going to be a beautiful world where my children could live, where love is actually existing. So, I'm very thankful for the fact that you listened to your to your guides and downloads. That okay, you need to start, because I just also feel that.
Well, thank you. That's wonderful. And I had to put my 3D, my ego existence aside. I didn't know what I was writing about when I received the guidance. And I'll tell you, I wrote a book. And then I was told that wasn't the book I was supposed to write. And so I started over. I mean, I did use some of that original material, but I incorporated it. But really, the version of the first book that I wrote and what ended up coming out it's two completely different things. It's my target for this book is not necessarily twin flames. Yes, it's going to help you on the twin flame journey, and I've already started my next project, which will be directly for twin flames. But this book is for everyone. This book is something that everyone should read and help realize that we are connected to something greater, and we are divinely perfect, and we have to stop believing everything that we're subjected to. By consciously choosing those things, we are deciding what we're going to believe in, and that's leading us on our path. But ultimately, just we have to listen to that higher guidance. So that's it. So magical breadcrumbs is you follow the magical breadcrumbs. It's as easy as that. Be fearless in following your magical breadcrumbs, because when you follow the guidance of the universe, it will lead you where you belong.
Uh, would you mind just in a way of putting into short description of what people will find from this book, in a way of when they start reading it, and how do what are the main things they would find?
Very personal details about myself that I want you to connect. I want you to understand that we are all real and we're living these very human existences. So I go into great detail about how I was, and I don't even in the book call it masculine energy, because I know that a lot of the readers that read that won't understand that. But I talk about how I was very focused and taking care of everyone else and those types of things. So you're going to be able to see yourself in these categories that I've included in the book. And then you're going to see all of the areas that you really need to look at that have created this image in your mind of what you have to be, and to decide, are these things that I want dictating these choices that I'm making every day? And then it also goes into the divine gifts, the gifts that we're given from the divine on this journey, as well as divine guidance, divine timing, divine intervention, all of those things that take place that we have to believe that something greater is happening. So when you find your faith and you clear the path, you can clearly start to see all of those magical breadcrumbs. And when you have the faith and be fearless in following the magical breadcrumbs, you will be led to the abundance you desire, whatever that looks like. And everybody has a different definition, just like intimacy. There's so many different definitions of abundance, but abundance for you and for most people is probably a lot of happiness and love. And when you shed off all those false layers that are making you make decisions that are not in alignment with your higher self, and you recognize that something greater is leading you, you are led into those situations where you get to experience the joy and the happiness that you want. So it's magical breadcrumbs, and the tagline is revealing your path to destiny. Because when you clear those things and really get in tune with your heart, you can find those. And part of the book is that, and I'll give you a little sneak in the back of the book, there's a little section, you want more magic. And one of those is that I will be putting on the website, magicalbreadcrumbs.com, I will be putting some extended content on there. And I've decided to make all of that extended content exactly what twin flames need to hear. So in the book, I don't necessarily go into how this applies to a twin flame because I do a chapter like on energy, understanding that everything is energy, right? And choosing our sexual partners very carefully because that is the most vulnerable moment for that energy to either go up or go down. And energy vampires and how you need to just be careful of your circles, those people that are surrounding you. So lots of different aspects that make you just stop and think. And it's done in the way that I've actually put spots in the book for you to stop and reflect on what I've written. And then how does that look for you? What belief immediately popped into your mind regarding this that you need to really reflect on and decide if you want to hold that. So it really engages the reader. It's not just an easy read pick up, but it is something that is going to be fairly easy and on all different levels. So whether you're a college graduate or finishing high school, whichever realm that you're in, that it can help you. So I hope to reach as many people as I can because I really want to help as many people as I can with my light.
Love that. I really love that. Yes. Magical breadcrumbs will be also, I will make a separate page on my website that in case somebody comes over, you will see directly over to Magical Breadcrumbs page. And the book is now to pre-order. So for those who would need some ways to start this, I would really recommend, if you enjoyed that episode, if you enjoyed the insights we are giving over to you. I think me and D Ann Marie, we are very seeing this connection in the same level, in a way of same understanding. And so that's why if you agree with my mindset, my way of seeing it, then I think this is the book you should definitely watch out. And I think in Amazon it will come a little later, but it's already available for a pre-order. And if you're listening this in a later period of your time, always check out the links in the description, because if it's out on Amazon, you can order it directly, and also on the website. So it's all the information is out there to make sure that you get guided. And obviously, as the website is now up, you can get in touch with Anne Marie, ask questions, get some guidance. Always feel free to, if you felt today that this resonated with you, if you felt that, oh my God, I need some kind of a support, I think Anne Marie is able to give you an overview or at least like a little support.
Of the people that subscribe to your channel. You feel free to look me up. I have a whole social media story that we won't go through, but I have my original Instagram page that is my personal page that I will be using and continue to use through this journey. And it's the number 1 and the word Irie, I-R-I-E, girl, G-I-R-L, that you can always contact me through. I don't post a whole lot of stuff, but I will definitely follow your pages, and you can message me and we can have conversations, guidance. I'm in this journey with you guys, and I firmly believe that we are a community that needs to support one another, because no one else gets this. They think we're crazy, that this doesn't really happen. So to have that kind of support, we definitely need that. So absolutely, if you feel it in your heart that this resonates, then reach out and let's have a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And I will add everywhere. So it's all on the links in the description, that you can easily contact, easily get in touch. And, we keep on continuing doing it. I think, if you like this episode, if you like what we are doing together, I think let us know, and we are more than happy to do it together again. And I don't believe that's going to be our last one. And we have also a workshop most probably coming out as soon as we get our schedules, my schedule pretty much matched. And so, but let's kind of wrap it up for today, because I think it's one of the longest episodes we have done together. And I really thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing it. And like I said to all the audience, if you like what we are doing together, let us know, because our mission here is to serve you. So if any kind of questions, any kind of topics you would need, we are here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and I hope to see you soon over here. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know, and we'll see you very soon.
I wrote to cross before, and someday our ocean will find its shore. If you've never been this tired, then you've never been this in love. When you feel there is time for us, then I'll be by the same old road.